Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We truly do appreciate it. Today we're sitting down with Alex and Kai of Yesterday's Youth. They're based out of Portland and they formed in early 2019. They hit the ground running right away, recording an EP, but a couple of months after production, they realized it wasn't really the sound they were looking for. And so they scrapped that project and hopped back into the studio in October of 2019 to record new material. Now, of course, a few months after that, COVID hit, and the band really could have gone one of two ways. They could have said, well, we just joined together, so why don't we just go our separate ways because COVID looks like it's going to have a big impact on music. Or they could have said, let's come together, keep recording, and keep honing in on our sound. And that is exactly what they did. They've been recording and releasing music throughout 2020, honing in on that sound and really coming together as a band. So please enjoy our conversation with Alex and Kai of Yesterday's Youth. When did each of you start to get in the mindset of writing songs the way that you do? Has it always been something that you've been focused on in writing songs with meaning, or is it something that's come within the last few years as songwriters?
I would say it's been a really interesting development. We kind of had a stretch of time where we had fully developed songs that I think Alex had kind of already had written, and then we worked together from there. Recently, it's been a lot more song structure working. So I tend to be a musical storyteller. I like to create these storylines with throughout writing compositions. It's a major part of how I express myself musically. And so I'll kind of already have an idea of where I want to go. If this is a song that I'm writing in recency, I'll have an idea of where I want to go based on how I feel the music is headed. And then I'll kind of present that to Alex. And then Alex will write around that usually. I'll kind of come with a song title or an expression that I'm feeling based on that. And then he's able to riff off of that and do all of the cool symbolism and lyricism that he does, which has been really, really nice to have that kind of process, at least in the past couple of years.
And Alex, for you, I think I've heard you say in the past that basically music was a way to make yourself heard when you were younger because you didn't feel maybe that you were being heard. So when did that start? How young were you when that sort of started within you, that sort of songwriting?
Uh, it first started initially with film and acting, actually,
Oh,
and
okay.
that's something I still have a big passion for. I'd love for someday to work with more film people and more shows or more, soundtracks, stuff like that. But with music, I think I started taking music more seriously in probably junior year of high school or sophomore year of high school. And I never found a lot of joy in playing covers. As important as I think it is to play other people's stuff and develop new techniques. I mean, especially if you're talking about Eddie Van Halen, people like that, because it's such a different approach to writing than yours is. Mine was I always loved composing and putting together something original, because it was kind of, you feel like you're so much more involved in the story and mapping it all out, which in a way is very similar to writing a film or writing a story in a film.
When did you guys come together? What year was it?
Is that 2019? I think, right?
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow it really isn't, we haven't been together that long, but it also at the
Yeah.
same time feels like so long because I think we've kind of did all the big things as a band together, of like playing our first shows and playing bigger shows and, making merch and making songs and studios and learning to develop our own music and all these different things. But yeah, initially we found each other on Craigslist in 2019.
And was this your first bands, each of you, or have you been in past work before?
I've been in previous projects before this.
Same.
Yeah, that kind of went into how I joined this band is that I was in a project before that was It was kind of a mutual thing. It didn't necessarily wear out for me. Love those guys. Those guys are great. Nothing like bad happened. But I ended up looking for a new band, and then that's how I ended up joining this one.
Mine wasn't as serious. I mean, I think I was in like two different high school bands and coming right out of high school bands before getting into this band.
And so the bands you were both in before, were they as emotionally driven? Did they have messages within the music, or was it more just the high school band
Yeah,
era?
yeah. I my last band was very emotional driven. I kind of the other guitarist I worked with was one of the people that taught me, I think, how to express myself freely in the musical sense. Kind of showed me how to bring that out composition wise. So yeah, I have a lot of experience, at least personally, writing like very emotionally charged composition pieces.
And so coming into this band, you guys hit the ground running pretty quickly because you were playing shows, a month or two, it seems, after you kind of came together, and some pretty big shows. So was that something that you knew when you found each other that you wanted, was to really build up quickly and create some noise right away?
I think looking back, I realized that I had no clue what I wanted in this band. um, Things have changed so much since those first months. I mean, we were just, I think, just astounded to get on a stage at first, and then we started becoming more. I think you just develop like a little more, become a bit more of a prima donna, little by little. You want a sound check, you want thorough kind of inspection of the noise all be coming out of your amp or your monitors. You don't want to hear, you solely don't want to hear bass lines in your ears for an hour straight.
I can
So
I Yeah, I can say that we, at least both of us, had a huge drive, at least to make it professionally a professional thing. I know that music full time has always been something that I've wanted, and Alex has been on the same boat as me. I feel like, for the most part.
yep.
And so I think, yeah, just as we got more experience of sludging through the bar scene and trying to get and having our fair share of bad shows and experiences that were learning experiences, I think we slowly started to figure out how to make bigger shows happen, and what we wanted out of shows, which has been nice.
And Kai, did you grow up around music? Because I saw a post on social media that made it appear that your dad is a guitarist as well. So is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
Bam.
definitely.
Look at that digging.
Yeah, my that's he's the one that got me. My dad has been, played guitar for his whole life. So I grew up with my dad having an Ibanez S from the 1980s. And so all of the rock and prog stuff was a huge upbringing for me.
So have you always been attracted to it then? Is it always something that you've sort of focused on as doing as somewhat of a career?
Yeah, ever since, I started playing when I was a kid, and then I didn't take it super seriously for a while, but and eventually, the more I practiced, the more obsessed I got, the more I realized that this was really the only career option for me at this point. So
And Alex, for you, I know I think it was back in 2017, 20 or 2016.
Oh God.
You were talking about the fact that you were getting some professionally recorded songs going. So is that around the age that you started to sort of move in that direction?
Well, I hope nobody finds those songs. But yeah, that was, it was, I don't know. I've always wanted to be in the arts, and especially music and film, my entire life. It was really, I think it's kind of like one of those things that it kind of chooses you, and you have to decide if you're willing to commit to it, even when things show no return at all. And, Kai was kind of talking the other day to me about kind of this idea of like the artist being faced with a mountain and choosing to go up it, or kind of just like dropping what they've carried up so far and just walking back down and taking an easier path.
Right.
And with any career, they're all going to have their mountains. And I would much rather spend my life trekking up this one than another one.
And I know back in 2016, there was Cold Chains, Hard Hearts, and Bloody Hands.
Yep.
So was that from there, that was sort of your first movie experience, right?
Here, I'll try and like make it a short story.
Okay.
That was probably one of the best movie experiences I've done. It was getting submitted to Sundance, and we got played in a theater in Los Angeles, and we got to fly out and watch it in front of a ton of people. The parts that were disheartening about film and being an actor were that I did a ton of projects before that never saw the light of day. So, you would get your paycheck and you're like, okay, it's good that I'm getting paid to do this because I want to be able to keep doing artistic things like this. But I'm invested in this project. I'm kind of a stakeholder. I want to see people's reaction to it. And so there's just a list of different projects I've done otherwise, aside from that, I couldn't even show you because they're not on the internet anywhere. So yeah, but Cold Chains, Hard Hearts, and Bloody Hands. Yeah, I was wearing a poncho in the 1800s and in freezing cold weather in Shaniko, Oregon, which is a ghost town. So yeah, good times.
And I've asked other people before who have an acting background as well as they're a musician. Does the acting help on stage in portraying emotion, do you think?
I wish I could give people the advice, everybody, whatever career you're in, to take an acting class. I think it's so important to be able to step outside yourself and to become empathetic and to try and rationalize with different ideas that butt heads with yours, because we have to connect with people somehow, even when we disagree with them, because in a workplace you work with people you disagree with, in relationships you disagree sometimes, in friendships, in bands. And if every resolution came from me just like screaming at someone to make them want to scream at me, we wouldn't be getting very far. And we've seen that a lot politically over the last 2 years or so, with people just yelling into this void at each other and not really coming away with any sort of real resolution. So yeah, acting has really brought a ton to my life just in general.
And within your music, you have that focus as well in the empathy and supporting others. So, how do you balance that in having a message, but not being a part of the screaming match and trying to scream at everyone like, this is what you should do, but just trying to have that empathy for people? Is that a difficult push and pull sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I can attest at least to the kind of balance between trying to get out what you believe to be true, at least normatively, and then the balance of trying to like not trying to fight with people. And someone who's like gotten in arguments and has learned my lesson in the battle of Facebook discourse, in the past. Yeah, there's kind of a nice balance you hit, and where you're able to have conversations that are more productive, kind of start conversations that I feel are less inflammatory, and I think more trying to have conversations with people. And I think that's something that me and Alex both are really, really big on. I think we try to do this on every level, whether it's social media comments, whether it's the music that we make, whether it's day-to-day interactions with people. We're trying to be as open-minded and as willing to have conversations with people as possible.
And how does that look in the writing process for you guys then in creating your music? Does it make it a little more difficult because you're not just necessarily taking your thoughts and throwing them down on paper? You're really thinking about them and really thinking about the message that you're creating? Or is it easy because you know what message you want to send?
I think it's easier in some ways because you're just being honest with yourself and to who you are and speaking to who you are. I think it's harder because you have so many other things to consider, things in which you don't want to just purposely contribute to all the problems that exist in social media, of like offending people directly, or discriminating against people, or writing things too harshly without causation, and all this different stuff. So think it's kind of, there's a fine line. And yeah, so I would overall say it's a little tougher sometimes, but it really depends what's being written about. If it's a song just about a relationship I've had, no problem. I mean, I could just give you details about how I feel about it, how they felt, how I think they felt about it. And but if it's about the state of the world, or as some sort of economic state or something political, then that's a much harder uh, cookie to crumble.
And what happened to Pucker Up?
Oh boy. Kai, do you want it to be me or you?
It's a,
Because that was recorded back in July of 19, right?
yeah.
Like shortly after you guys got together.
That was the first EP. It was the first music that we really had written. That was kind of the very beginning of us coming together to make music. And there was a kind of a lot of different band members in. We had basically a completely different sound, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
The sound was very. I don't know if you heard it or not, but
No, I wasn't able to. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah. For anyone that did hear it, it's it's a very, very, I don't want to say poppier sound, but it's definitely a lot more light sounding and a lot more soft rock.
Yes.
And this was kind of very, we hadn't really developed a sound yet. And then we also had some members that left that would have appreciated if we didn't have that out there. And so we decided that it was in everyone's best interest if we just kind of moved past that, and kind of went in the new sound, and started to develop with the starting point being, I think, at Disappear. For us, that works a lot better. I think Disappear is a better starting block than I think Pucker Up is, at least for us.
Right. And you jumped back in the studio pretty quickly after that, November of 2019, to record more music. So it seems like you were pretty driven to be able to have music out there.
Very, very driven. And right now, with Blessed by My Mistakes having come out on Friday, we have 13 more songs already recorded.
Wow.
So I mean, we are all about writing and getting content to kind of have ready to go and to plan with. We don't kind of like being caught out, in the rain without an umbrella. So, but yeah, the Pucker Up thing, as Kai put it, just to get my 10 cents, was we had just it was two things, kind of like we don't feel like we identify with that sound much anymore. I mean, I listened back to like the way I sang things back then, and I was like, what the heck was I doing? And then we had a different member at the time that wasn't, like you said, wouldn't have been as happy to have us like promoting his work. So we just decided to respect that. And also it was okay for us because Disappear and Rome with the Wolves kind of being our first sounds is so much easier to get into our discography when those are kind of the starting points, because you're like, oh yeah, I can see how they got from here to there, versus with Pucker Up, you're like, what happened?
And for you two coming together, you weren't friends over many years. You didn't know each other. You didn't know each other's sounds. So what was it like for the two of you writing together and trying to figure out what sound you wanted, especially after that first project was dropped and you went into the second recording? What was that like in working together to create that sound when you didn't really know each other all that well?
I mean, I'll say personally, it was a pretty big learning experience. I've always been a relatively, I adapt, I think, pretty well, as a musician, but I think I went into it, kind of, I think I didn't really know where I stood in terms of trying to balance out, the writing process versus just the playing guitar, process, at least with the band. I think as we got more comfortable with each other, I think Alex and me kind of had a really good chemistry, that we developed. It took time to develop that. And then once we had developed that, we were able to write, I think, at a much higher level. I think we went from writing, songs that were kind of indicative of us not really playing together to being able to, I think, untap our potentials. Each of us have potentials really, really well. So I'm able to play with Alex now, a lot better because I know what he's capable of. I know where I kind of stand, and he knows what I'm capable of. So we're able to play with each other really, really well, which has been really, really cool in terms of the music that we're able to push ourselves to create.
And what has the past year been like? Because you guys form in 2019, you kind of have these projects that, it's up and down. And then the beginning of 2020 hits, and it could go two ways. It could make you stronger and make you think, let's ride this out. Let's work our butts off to get music out there. Or you could think, like, we just met. Why don't we just go our separate ways and not worry about this? So you guys really decided on the let's work hard and let's get music out there and let's make this happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know that at least I and Alex met a really rare person, and that he's the kind of guy that I know that will be as super, super driven. He's going to put in, 24 hours a day in band stuff. And so I knew I could rely on him to get through, I think, 2020 with me. We had this huge, it was devastating because, we love playing shows. We love doing events. We love planning tours and trying to get this stuff figured out. But I think I had enough confidence in Alex as a person to try to put that trust into, if we stick it through 2020 and we just put our heads down and record music and go to the studio and write and make ourselves better musicians and make a bunch of content, that I think we'll get through it pretty well and we'll come out on top.
I think I knew Kai and I were gonna be fine. I think after the first year of all the shows we played, we became more confident each show, because I always said that each show is kind of like 5 rehearsals. That's how much experience you feel like you get from playing one show, whether you're playing in front of one person or 100 people. You just learn something new every time. And when you get off the stage, you're just like, that was awesome. I'm going to do that next time. Or that was horrible. I'm never doing that again. And like Alex coming to a show drunk and dressed like a real estate agent. That's all I'll say about that. But Eli, our drummer, he joined the band in January of 2020. And we played our last show with him in January, and not our last show with him, but our last show until whenever we can again. And right. We were like, because Eli was about to turn 21, and it's just easier to book shows when someone's 21. And we were like, we'll just wait till you're 21. It's gonna be no problem. And then we shot 2 music videos with him. And literally the day after we shot, everything shut down. And now he's just like, he's just itching to go and play. But I can definitely say we've came out a lot stronger for all of it, because we're patient people. We know how the world works. We know this is for everyone's best interest, and we want people to be safe and feel safe when they're at our shows. That's kind of always going to be our message. So.
And did you say you have like 12 or 13 songs ready to go?
Yep, unreleased.
So did you record those with Steven as well?
Yeah, we've recorded all of our music. We met him in 2019 when he had his Saint Cecilia studios here in Portland. He's since moved out to Tucson, but he's flown in a couple times in 2020 to come record with us, which has been really cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and studying studio engineering, I mean, it's something that Kai and I both see as a giant future investment, not only for ourselves and our band. We could do it working with other musicians someday, and we can do it making our own music and producing our own music, which is something I think we're both very passionate about. And I mean, once you get into like the nitty gritty of like tech and like technology and microphones and like large diaphragm microphones and all these different things, and it becomes exciting every time you get like a new piece of equipment. You want to just like mess with it all day. And it's exciting, and it's also a great investment, I think, for our band.
And over the past year in recording, because you recorded 8 songs with Steven in November, and so you've recorded some throughout 2020. What have you guys learned about your sound throughout those recordings in 2020?
I'll say at least on my, I feel like the word that I use is more mature, and I don't mean to like demean anything that we've done in the past, but I feel like we, in kind of that same sense that we grew in order to write with ourselves, I think we more developed a sound that I think is more true to who we want to be, at least down the road. So we've kind of gotten a little heavier, a little bit more compositionally melodic. There's a lot more themes. One of the things, I'm a huge prog guy, and so I'm really, really big into themes that kind of drive the song in a structure that makes sense. That's not super, super structured, but has these motifs that are repetitive throughout either a song or an album. And I think working towards that, and not necessarily super, super proggy, but in terms of those motifs and being able to write like that, having the knowledge that me and Alex have gained working with each other has been really, really cool. So I think in 2020, going through those writing experiences, writing songs like that, we've kind of delved into a little bit, which people will see later on, has been really, really fun.
And as a new band, when you are continuing to evolve really and find your sound, do you have to be okay with that? Because I can't imagine that you can look back on the stuff you recorded even 2 months ago. You probably look back and it's a different sound than maybe what you're writing today. So is that something you have to be comfortable with and not looking back and cringing at what you've done in the past?
Oh man, let me tell you something. As a singer, you just have to be comfortable with cringing at your past mistakes. And I you just especially and as a guitar player and a musician, you learn so much. And I think the difference between 2019 and 2020 is I was definitely more hesitant of approaching music the way Kai wanted to, which was more progressive, heavier. And then over the course of 2020, I was like, why the hell haven't we been doing this the whole time? Like, this is exactly what we should be doing. And, like, I think that's always going to be how it is. Like, you're always going to be most excited about your new music. And now Kai and I are working on a lot of new music and writing new stuff and improving our technique as different styles and different players. So yeah, I think that's the thing that's really changed, is just wanting to push the ante constantly versus sticking in a comfortable zone.
I always say that the best music that we'll release as a band is the music we haven't released yet, and I feel like I'll always say that. I'm always telling, I'm always thinking in my head, okay, we're waiting until this song comes out, and then that'll be like the best song we'll have out. But then by that time, I've already written or recorded something that's going to be the new thing, and so yeah, it's kind of a thing that I've learned to be okay with. That I'm always going to be, and that's a good thing. I don't want to ever be content with what's already been released or what's out. I'm always going to hope that I want to be, itching to release the next thing that I write or release the next thing that we've recorded or we've created. And so that's exciting for me, the fact that we can have that kind of perspective.
And so moving forward as a band and looking at possibly an album, would you really dive into finding that sound that you wanted so that if you did release an album, it was a cohesive unit? Or would you be okay with having a wide range of different styles within an album?
I think what I can say, like, so the worst and best part about being in a band where you're really trying to do something with it is marketing. Marketing is so tedious, and because you have to constantly have your outreach to all these fans who have already told you they like you, but you want them to keep liking you and want you to like grow with them. Or you want them to grow with you. And then you have to find these new people that you just have to be okay with annoying. You just have to be like, hey, I saw that you like this band. Do you want to listen to our music? I feel like you would love it. And you're just going to get told to F off left and right. But it's just the same thing you do at shows when you're trying to get people to buy a t-shirt. But I think in regards to your question about writing something cohesive or an album, the thing that I would say, not to give too much away, is that our plan over the next year is to definitely be putting out bigger releases, because we're a little tired of the singles game.
Yeah, seriously, yeah, very much so. I think motifs is something that I'm like a huge thing on. That'd be a huge thing for is kind of not a very specific, one giant 45-minute song that's split into, 8 tracks, but a kind of central theme that we're able to write around and not be super rigid. in terms of what. So I think I'm definitely good with different styles, different kind of approaches to music within a single album, and I think I'll probably have to come to terms with the fact that that we'll probably really want to do a certain sound, and then we might develop a little bit later, and then we want to do a different sound. And so even if we come out with an album or a larger release that has a certain sound, I'm probably not going to be super married to that going down the road.
And are you guys looking to self-produce at some point with the work you're doing on the production side and learning that side of it?
I think that's definitely a goal. It's something that would be really cool. I personally am not sure if I would want to go away from having some sort of outside perspective, someone to kind of come in and throw some ideas in. That's probably my favorite part about working with producers, is
Great.
that you get that kind of outside perspective that comes in that kind of says, "Hey, what if you did this?" And I'm like, "I've never thought of that. That sounds amazing. Let's give that a shot." And then it becomes, fantastic. So I don't know if I'll ever want to go away from that, but definitely having the means to self-produce is something that I think me and Alex both really, really want down the road.
Yeah, I would love to have like our own studio space that we could utilize for our writing and working with other musicians. But like Kai said, it's amazing to have a pair of outside ears, because you spend so much time in a relationship with these songs that you can just get like, you can just latch onto them and be like, no, you're wrong. When someone tells you like that line sounds kind of dumb, then you're like, liar. So when you hear like someone else on the outside that's not seeing you every week and they tell you, that's kind of cringy, then it's a lot easier to let go.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Everyone go check out the music on any streaming service and really dig in and see if you can find Pucker Up as well. Everyone out there who's listening, go and try and find that.
If you want to find Pucker Up, just message us on Instagram and I'll get you a Google Drive link where you can listen to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a great night.
You.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you guys once again so much for joining us, and thank you to Alex and Kai for stopping by and sharing the story of yesterday's youth. Please make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on, and please hop over to social media and give us a follow there as well. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. Just search The Music Made Me and we should pop up. Thank you guys once again so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Music Made Me.